Welcome to Scrum Masters Elite _UK. Subscribe to the channel to explore the story of Robertson's departure and the profound lessons from sports to organizations.
The departure of Robertson is not just a change in a coaching position, it's a painful glimpse into how an organization faces or avoids the truth about itself. I feel a deep sadness because behind the statistics, the press conferences, and the denials lies the story of people, of pressure, of expectations, and how a sports icon can make life difficult for himself. Robertson is no small name. He won 7 Super Rugby titles with the Crusaders, 6 of them as absolute champions, an achievement that any rugby nation would dream of. He built an environment that many generations of New Zealand players speak of with respect, even gratitude. When leading the All Blacks, he had 20 wins in 27 matches, a record that's not bad at all, especially in the context of modern rugby, which is increasingly competitive. Compared to his predecessor, Ian Foster, who finished his term with 70% support, Robertson even exceeded that number. Yet, all these facts seem to have been drowned in a whirlwind of doubt, speculation, and half-truths.
What bothers me most is how the story has been recounted as a player power drama. The name Ardie Savea was placed at the center of the rebellion rumors, even though Chairman David Kirk publicly denied it. I wonder, why do we so easily believe in a decaying locker room narrative, while hesitating to trust official statements? Is it because a story of betrayal is more compelling than one about restructuring? Do we, as fans, unconsciously prefer dramatic tragedies over dry analyses of systems? I realize that the problem doesn't lie in an imagined coup, but in the underlying signs of decline that have been brewing for a long time. The All Blacks' performance against South Africa since 2019 has dropped below 50%. The 43-10 defeat at home to the South Africa National Rugby Union team in Wellington wasn't just a loss, it was a wake-up call. In the second half, the team played lackluster, lacking depth, resilience, qualities that used to be their trademark. In the 2024 Rugby Championship, with a 3-3 record and a tendency to concede more points in the final 20 minutes. The issues of fitness and squad depth couldn't be solved by a mere personnel decision.
I see clearly what Eddie Jones once said: New Zealand rugby is facing a structural problem. When young talents are drawn to the NRL, Japan, or Europe, when names like Richie Mo'unga or Savea are attracted by foreign financial resources, the question is no longer, who will be the head coach? It's a question about the ecosystem. If a child in Auckland or Christchurch today dreams of playing for the Warriors instead of the All Blacks, that's not Robertson's fault. It's a sign of cultural and economic shifts. Robertson was completely different from his time at the Crusaders. The optimistic, energetic man, sensitive to players' emotions, seemed to have been worn down by pressure. When leading an icon like the New Zealand national rugby team, you're not just expected to win, you must win in the right way, embodying an almost sacred ideal. I imagine that pressure as a suit of armor too heavy, causing even the strongest to change their walk, if it's true that Crusaders players said they no longer recognized him. For me, that's not a scandal. It's the tragedy of expectations.
When a person is placed in a position where every gesture is scrutinized, every statement analyzed, naturalness easily disappears. And when naturalness disappears, the culture he once built with genuine emotion becomes hard to sustain. I see here a bitter reminder. Success in one environment does not guarantee success in another, especially when scale and pressure change entirely. What bothers me most is that the appointment process placed Robertson in a difficult position from the start, when he was named successor while his predecessor was still in place. Such a decision easily creates underlying polarization, making any imperfect result feel like confirmation of initial doubts. I feel he deserved more time, not because of perfect results, but because the issues he faced were generational. Personally, the biggest lesson is not just for New Zealand rugby, but for myself and for the fans. We often seek a scapegoat to relieve our disappointment. Firing a coach gives a sense of decisive action.
But action does not equal resolution. If the root of the issue lies in structure, training systems, commercial appeal, or long-term strategy, changing personnel is just the surface. I've learned that when facing failure, the first reflex should not be to find someone to blame, but to look straight at the structure we're operating under. In my work, in my life, if a project doesn't meet expectations, perhaps the question should be, what's wrong with my system? Have I placed someone in a role that doesn't fit the context? Am I confusing changing people with fixing the foundation? For the fans, I think we also need fairness. Overhyping idols leads to extreme disappointment. We elevate the All Blacks as an invincible symbol. And then when they lose, we search for an internal collapse story. But modern sports have changed. The global balance of power has shifted. South Africa has grown stronger, France, Ireland, and even Argentina have improved. No peak is permanent. What remains for me is not anger, but reflection.
Robertson may have changed under pressure. New Zealand Rugby may have reacted in panic. The media may have exaggerated. But behind it all is the question of identity. Who are the All Blacks of 2026? Will they dare to redefine themselves, or simply cling to the glory of the past? I believe a great organization is not one that never makes mistakes, but one that dares to face its mistakes honestly. If there's a truly brave and honest investigation, it won't just stop at the departure of a coach. But we'll dig deep into the ecosystem, the long-term strategy, and how to protect and nurture young talent. And if that happens, then Robertson's departure, though painful, could become the beginning of a rebirth process. Personally, I choose to view this story not as a scandal, but as a wake-up call. In sports and in life, removing a good person does not solve a difficult problem. Sometimes, the hardest thing is not changing the people, but changing the very structure we've grown accustomed to and trusted for too long.
Goodbye, Robertson. It's not just a change of coach, but an opportunity for New Zealand Rugby to reassess its identity and system.